The rain was merciless that night. Sheets of it hammering against the tin roof, wind howling like a wounded thing. The power had gone out hours ago, and only the soft glow of a dying lantern painted the walls of the small farmhouse gold. Sam Harper stood by the window, arms crossed, eyes tracing the storm outside. He was used to storms. He'd seen worse, but there was something about this one that felt different. Maybe it was the quiet ache of loneliness that came with nights like these, when the only sounds were rain and the occasional whimper of his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, sleeping restlessly in her room. He turned away, ready to check on her, when the faint sound of knocking reached his ears. It was hesitant at first, barely audible over the storm, then stronger, urgent, his brows furrowed. Who could possibly be out here, in the middle of nowhere, at this hour? Sam grabbed the lantern and headed for the door, heart pounding in sync with the thunder. When he opened it, the sight before him froze him in place. A woman stood there, drenched from head to toe, her expensive black coat clinging to her trembling frame. Her dark hair, plastered to her face, couldn't hide the panic in her eyes. She looked out of place, too refined, too fragile for the mud and wildness of his old country road. "Please," she gasped, voice shaking. "My car." It skidded off the road. I didn't know where else to go. The lantern light flickered, casting shadows on her pale, exhausted face. Sam didn't hesitate. He stepped aside, motioning her in. "You shouldn't be out there. Come in before you freeze." As she stumbled inside, he caught the faint scent of something expensive beneath the rain, the kind of perfume that lingered in offices high above city skylines. She wasn't just lost, she was out of her world. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and how fate brings people together when they need it most, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It helps us tell more stories that touch the heart. He led her to the small living room, where the crackling of the wood stove offered the only warmth. Lily had woken up by now, rubbing her sleepy eyes and clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Daddy, who's that?" she mumbled, peeking from behind his leg. "Someone who needed help, sweetheart," he said gently. "Go get a towel from the kitchen, okay?" The woman smiled faintly, gratitude flickering through her exhaustion. "I'm so sorry," she said, voice breaking. "I didn't mean to intrude. The storm came out of nowhere." "It does that here," Sam replied, his voice steady, rough-edged but kind. "You can stay till it passes. There's hot soup on the stove if you're hungry." As she sat near the fire, her eyes wandered around the modest home. It was small but neat, handmade furniture, children's drawings on the wall, an old photo of a woman smiling beside Sam. There was a quiet sadness in that space, a story of love and loss that didn't need words. "I'm Sam," he said finally, "and that's Lily." She hesitated. "I'm Claire. Claire Donovan." The name tugged at something familiar. He'd heard it before, in the background hum of city news, maybe on a billboard or financial segment. But he couldn't place it. It didn't matter now. To him, she was just someone lost in the storm. Claire hadn't planned to end up here. She was the CEO of one of the city's largest architecture firms, a woman who spent her life in glass towers and boardrooms, commanding respect with every step. Yet tonight, she was just human, stripped of power, soaked and scared. The storm outside mirrored the one that had been raging inside her for months. Too many deadlines, betrayals, a fiancé who cared more about her company than her heart. She'd driven out of the city hoping for air, for quiet, for something real. But the storm had found her first. Sam noticed how she stared at the flames like she was trying to remember what warmth felt like. He offered her the bowl of soup, and for a moment, their eyes met, his steady and grounded, hers searching for something she couldn't name. She thanked him softly, her voice catching on the edge of a sob she didn't want him to hear. The night dragged on. Outside the storm raged, but inside the world softened. Lily fell asleep on the couch beside Claire, her small hand resting trustingly on Claire's lap. Sam watched from the kitchen, the sight stirring something in him he hadn't felt in years, a sense of quiet connection, the kind that sneaks up on you when you least expect it. By morning, the rain had stopped, leaving behind the smell of wet earth and hope. The sunlight peeked shyly through the window, illuminating Claire's face as she slept. Without the tension and fear, she looked peaceful, almost fragile. Sam stood there a moment too long before turning away to make breakfast. When she woke up, she found him flipping pancakes, humming softly. "You really didn't have to," she began. "I know," he said with a small smile, "but I did." They ate together, the silence comfortable this time. Claire glanced at her phone. No signal, no messages. The world she'd ruled over so confidently was suddenly far away, and for reasons she couldn't explain, she didn't miss it. By afternoon, she helped him with chores. She didn't know how to chop wood or fix a chicken coop, but Sam guided her with patient amusement. Lily followed them around, giggling as Claire struggled to hammer a nail. For the first time in years, Claire laughed. A real laugh, unguarded and bright. Days passed before the roads cleared. Claire could have called for help earlier, but she didn't. Something about that little farmhouse, the smell of coffee in the mornings, the sound of Lily's laughter, and the quiet strength in Sam's eyes kept her there. It was as if the storm had trapped her exactly where she needed to be. She learned about Sam's life, the way he'd lost his wife 3 years ago to cancer, how he worked at a small auto shop in town and spent every free moment raising his daughter. He didn't complain, didn't ask for pity. He lived simply, honestly. And that, more than anything, fascinated her. In turn, Sam learned that beneath Claire's success and polished composure was a woman who'd forgotten what it meant to be cared for without expectation. She'd built walls so high no one could see the cracks, and yet here, in his small world, those walls began to crumble. One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of lavender and gold, Sam found her sitting by the fence, staring at the horizon. "You planning to run away again?" he asked gently, joining her. She smiled faintly. "Not sure where I'd go. Maybe I've been running from the wrong things." He didn't say anything, just sat beside her, the quiet between them speaking volumes. In that silence, something shifted. An understanding, a connection that felt as natural as breathing. A week later, her driver arrived to take her back to the city. The storm was long gone, but something in her heart hesitated. Lily clung to her leg, unwilling to let go. "Will you come back?" the little girl asked, her big brown eyes shining with innocence. Claire knelt down, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's face. "I'll try, sweetheart." But when she looked up, her gaze met Sam's and the promise in her voice deepened. "I will." Back in the city, Claire tried to slip back into her old life. The board meetings, the endless calls, the polished suits. It all felt hollow. Her mind kept drifting back to that small house, the sound of rain on the roof, the warmth of a man who asked for nothing yet gave everything. She found herself driving back on weekends, under excuses at first. "I just need a break. I'm scouting rural development sites." But they both knew the truth. Each visit chipped away at the distance between them. Sam never asked her to stay, but every time she left, she found it harder to go. She'd bring groceries, books for Lily, and sometimes just herself, needing to breathe. He'd fix her car, cook dinner, and watch her learn how to slow down. And somewhere between laughter and silence, between storm and calm, love grew. Not the rushed, fiery kind, but something steady and deep, rooted in shared kindness and quiet understanding. Months later, during one visit, she stood at the door again, watching the rain fall just like that first night. "Funny," she murmured, "how storms can bring you exactly where you're meant to be." Sam looked at her for a long moment before taking her hand. "Sometimes," he said softly, "the hardest storms show you who you really are." She smiled through tears. "And who's that?" He brushed his thumb over her knuckles. "Someone who needed more than shelter." The city still called her name, but it no longer owned her. Claire split her time between the world she'd built and the one she'd found, each visit healing a part of her she didn't know was broken. Lily adored her. Sam loved her quietly but completely. And one evening, as they watched the sunset together, she realized she wasn't searching anymore. The storm that had once terrified her had given her the greatest peace of all, a home she never expected. Sometimes the greatest rescues happen when you least expect them, not with grand gestures or promises, but with a door opened in the rain and a heart willing to listen. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us keep creating stories that remind the world of hope, kindness, and love's quiet miracles. Before you go, tell us in the comments, what would you have done if a stranger knocked on your door in the middle of a storm?